Okay, on this video, I really just want to start to open up who I am, why I'm here, and I'm sure some of you are curious, like who is this guy, who is this crazy guy just came out of nowhere and started slamming videos on the internet. So to frame it a little bit, I just want to let you know, first of all, I don't want any pity. I don't want to share to focus to be on me. I really want the focus to be on how this can help you, how you can learn from my mistakes or maybe some of my victories. And if some of you who are really curious of who I am, why I'm here, bear with me, and I will start to share some things in my life. And it'll be difficult, but I understand that vulnerability is power, and that's something that is not easy for anybody, right? And some things I talk about will be very emotional or very difficult circumstances that I had to face, and they are memories in my perspective. And it's important to understand that everybody sees things differently in the world, and that people perceive things at different times in different ways. And so, with that said, if you want to know, stick with me. So, I was born into a probably low income family, I would consider. I mean, I was very young when my father passed away. And that was the start of a lot of chaos in my life. Um, I don't know if things would have been differently had that not happened, but it did happen. And I was a person who perceived the world through emotion, through kinesthetic. We all have a way of interpreting signals from the universe, essentially, like either through, vision, or through sound, or through taste, right? Or through feeling. And I was a person who perceived the world through feeling. This is my bird. I'm sure some of you have heard her scream in the videos. She loves attention, and you know, but that's the way it goes. So when my father passed away, I guess I took a huge pain, and I didn't know how to protect myself, right, emotionally, and it penetrated very deep into my heart and soul, and it turned me into the best words for it is monster. I was a very bad person in my eyes, right? Chaos continued. Um, you know, my mother, she was a strong person, but she had many flaws, and she lived a chaotic life. She tried to have other siblings that were involved, and it was hard. And we moved into another situation after that, where we had an abusive, alcoholic stepfather, emotionally and physically. It was difficult, and by 10 years old, I was in trouble with the law. You know, I was maybe circumstantial, or maybe there's a lot of excuses for it, but I ended up in the juvenile detention system. For a couple of years, I was in and out of trouble, and it was random acts of kindness from strangers who loved me and were there for me despite I was doing nothing for them that got me out of that situation. Around 12 years old, after getting through a lot of trouble and going through some group homes and a lot of chaos, I essentially learned very little in school because of the chaos in my life. I was considered dyslexic. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't spell. I struggled in pretty much all areas of education in the traditional sense. I knew a lot about life because I had no choice but to make decisions from a very young age. I mean, decisions that even adults would struggle with, to be honest with you. So I was forced to grow up fast. And one of those decisions was a stranger who decided to help me. And I'm going to keep names out of this for other people just because I respect their privacy. They decided to help me and assist me, and I was able to get to California. And I had a brother there I didn't really know. He was there from when I was young, but I was so young I didn't really remember him much, other than he used to bring me toys and stuff, right? So I got there, and he was in a situation that was hard, right? He had a girlfriend at the time that he was struggling with, and he just had a new child, and he was in a chaotic part of his life as well. But he took me in. He opened his heart, and forever be grateful for that. And chaos ensued still. I made a decision, when I moved to California, to try to be a better person, to change, to not get in trouble anymore. And thankfully, there was people who stepped up in my life to be there for me and kind of give me some guidance. And one was an older gentleman, my brother's girlfriend's father. He was there for me as a role model, in the sense that he was an ex-Marine, and I don't know if some of you know that once a Marine, always a Marine, right? So he was kind of like a no BS type of person, and he kind of told me how it was. He said, listen, if you want, right, you want to change your life, you need to decide. And I did. I said, I'm committed. So he gave me a job, and he kept me busy, and I tried, but I was still so angry for my life, and I was still focused on everything I didn't have. I didn't have parents, I didn't have family, I didn't feel loved, and it was difficult, and I was angry. Constantly anger was flowing through, and I was just like a Category 5 hurricane going through life. And it ensued. I stuck in school, and for some reason people consistently were there to help me, to give me a place to live when I had nowhere to go, to support me and love me despite I didn't support and love them back. And I am forever grateful for these random acts of kindness that came into my life. But, I hadn't learned enough lessons yet. So I made it through high school, and I decided I was going to go into the military. Around 14 years old, the gentleman that was being my mentor, he pushed me towards the Marines. So I went into a program called the Devil Pups program. I went to Camp Pendleton in San Diego, and I went through the program, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself, about self-discipline, about pushing myself to limits, and it did help some, but I was still too angry for it to fully make a difference. So I continued to be bad, and I made it through high school somehow, without going to prison or ending up a complete druggy loser. Miraculous. Many times in my life, I wished for death because I just felt so miserable, and I didn't understand the point of life. So I was given some books early on as well on self-education, and I think one of the first ones that really hit me was Psycho-Cybernetics, and I read that, and it was like about this mental game, right? How you picture yourself and what you're doing within yourself, right, in your mind, and who you think of, what you're thinking. And that's when I really started to have some transformation. But it was kind of like I knew it on a logical level, but I had not emotionally accepted it. And me being an emotional person, it was more important for me to get an emotional understanding. So life will teach you the lessons you need to learn when you most need to learn them. And it did. I continued to cause myself emotional trauma and pain. I continued to ensue as a person that was not being a force for good. I was a damaging force. I was a destructive force. I was an angry force. But nonetheless, I went to join the military, and I was going to the Marine Corps. I was like so certain, I got it all figured out. I'm going to go be a Marine. So I went to the recruiter's office, and that happened to be that the Marine recruiter was on lunch. And I had also talked to some people about the Air Force or prior Air Force. And the Air Force recruiter was there, and she caught my attention, and she called me into the office. And I started talking to her, And essentially, after the conversation, she told me because of my past that it was not a good fit for me. And I made a decision right then and there within myself. I'm aware of it now. Maybe then I wasn't quite as aware of it, but that I was done being told what I can and cannot do in my life. I was 18 now. I'm an adult. I'm done with high school, which I thought was like the major accomplishment in life. So I persisted, and I did what it took to get in, and it happened from, again, kindness of strangers. People stepped up, some people that I didn't even fully know, had no reason to be there for me. I'd done nothing for them really, from my perspective, and they helped me take that step. They gave me a letter of recommendations, and they helped me, and the military gave me the chance, right? They gave me a chance, and it was the first time that I was like, wow, I'm finally getting things together. I made it through the training, and the boot camp and all that things, and it was actually pretty easy for me because I'd been through boot camp at 14 for a couple weeks in the Devil Pup program. So that was actually the 2 weeks in the Marines Corps training was actually probably more intense than I think it was like 6 or 8 weeks, I can't remember exactly, and the Air Force training. But nonetheless, I learned a lot more discipline. I learned a lot more about myself, and I made it to the tech school training. And it was there that I found out that I was sick. I was not doing well, and went to the doctor, and I found that I had here on my neck a pretty large lump. It's about the size of a golf ball, and I didn't know what it was from, and I didn't have it, previously, and it was just kind of developed pretty quickly. So the first thoughts were that it was going to be cancer, and it was going to be something that was probably going to get me discharged, and that even after I was only like 1 week away from graduation on the tech school training, and it was all pretty much going to be taken away from me. That's pretty much the thoughts I was having when this developed. I did fight, though. I said, like I said, I made that decision. I was not going to be told what I can and cannot do. So I decided to fight. I started to push, and I said, listen, I'm going to find a solution to this, and I don't want to do it here. I want to finish the school, and, after the school, you're supposed to get some time to go on a vacation, a few weeks, because you haven't seen your friends and family for a while. And I said, listen, I will skip that. I'll go straight to my next duty assignment, my first duty assignment, and I'll take care of it there. So that's what I did. And I got there, and within 24 hours, I had 24 hours, I believe, to report to the surgery. And I pretty much checked in at the base. Hey, I'm here. And I had to go and have an emergency surgery. So, there you go. Let's start our career off on a good foot, right? So I did. I had the surgery, and, before it, there was actually one person that I met that was actually walking down the street, and I stopped in the street and gave him a ride. And I don't know why. I did. And that person was actually there for me. He's the only person that was there for me from the base that I knew. I didn't really know anybody there, right? And another person actually was willing to fly out and support me in that time too. And I'm forever grateful for that. I didn't feel I deserved that love or that kindness, but I got it. So I recovered. They did surgery on my neck. There's a big scar behind my ear, and they got severed here, and they took it out, and it was benign. It was not cancerous. I did lose feeling on the side of my face, and I had this sew my neck muscle up to fill the gap here, and it was nerve damages, and it caused a lot of other problems later on. We'll get into that later. And it basically, I was still so naive. I was on a good path maybe, but it was not. I was still kind of lying to myself. Yes, I'm logically aware of what I should be doing, but I was not doing it. I was saying one thing, right? And I was still doing the bad habits. And that's when, I turned 21 shortly after, all these things happened, and I turned to alcohol. Despite the fact that alcohol was such a destructive force for those I saw in my life as a child, I dug into it deeply, and I overindulged, and I became more of a chaotic force. And somehow I did not get kicked out of the military, even though I was behaving less than. I was not living up to my core values. I was not being the person I should have been. I was not being my best self. And I'm sure I hurt a lot of people in those times that I'm always going to be sorry for. And I even almost died. It was a wake-up call, a little bit. Actually, my mother called me, and I don't know if it was because I was in the military or she got it from one of my sisters or something, but she got my cell phone number, and she called me, and I just turned 21, and she hadn't seen her since I was like, I don't know, 10 or 12 years old. I was very young last time I saw her. I haven't really talked to her, nothing. I didn't really know anything was going on. And she basically told me that she was thinking that she was going to die soon and that she was completely sorry. And we had a pretty intense conversation. And I forgave her. And this was my first like big release of like, man, that what a weight, right, was lifted off me, that I was able to give this forgiveness. And I told her, it's like, I realize now that all I've been through has been a gift. I realize now at this point that all that has happened to me was a gift of strength. It was a gift that I get to live with for the rest of my life and share with others. So I said that, but like I said, my words were not in line with my actions. So I went out and I got annihilated drunk, and I started fighting. I don't remember most of it. I guess I started fighting people, and I begged people to kill me, and I ended up arrested and put into a hospital because I thought I was suicidal. So I spent the 72-hour, I think it's the law, they have to hold me, right? And I woke up, I didn't even know where I was when I woke up. I don't even remember how I got there. And the doctor told me that was over a 0.4 alcohol level, like it was like past the lethal limit and all these things. And you would think that would be enough. You think that would be enough for me, but it wasn't. And I ended up going to my next duty station and I continued to drink. In fact, I continued to drink, I continued to fight, I continued to be angry, I continued to be a destructive force for several more years. I was still working hard, and I was still trying, I was still improving, I was still learning, but I was not being a good friend, I was not really being a good person, I was just really being selfish, and I was really just living through anger still. So that continued until I was about 25 years old. I actually came back from being overseas for several years, and I decided that it was time to start again. It was time to start again. I was about 25 years old, and I really, really decided, like, this time I'm going to settle down. I'm going to start being congruent, and I really dug in more into my self-education, with Tony Robbins and all these, Dean Graziosi and Brandon Burchard and Grant Cardone and all of these really, really great people in the world who have been there as role models for me, and I'll forever, ever be grateful for all of them. And there's so many more, I can't even list them all, to be honest with you, that have inspired me in moments of sadness, have picked me up in moments of, that I just didn't think I had it in me, and I will forever be grateful for that, for sure. And I did still make improvements, ended up getting married, and I ended up, starting to learn how to be more kind and a loving person through my wife, who was just like one of the best gifts I ever received in my life. This pure, kind soul. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I truly believe that the universe gives you what you need when you're really ready for it, and that happened in my life, and it transformed me, and I still was not fully a good person. I learned all these things. I even had coaching trainings, and I'm talking like hundreds and hundreds of hours into self-development, and it still wasn't enough. I still was saying it, and I understood I was speaking it, but I was not fully doing it. So life continues, right? And I guess I hadn't learned enough yet, so life decided to give me more lessons. It came forward, and I had a whole series of injuries, and I really just brutalized my body throughout my life, and I really did not take care of it from a very young age. I didn't have medical insurance when I was younger, and all these injuries, broken bones where I walked on them until they healed, and it was bad for my health, and it caught up with me. So I was in a car accident, and I started going to the doctor for that, and next thing I know, I'm tagged for medical review in the military. And it ended in my career being over, and I had to transition, and I felt completely broken. I felt like, man, I finally had it together, I finally had a chance, and here it is ending. And not just that, but financially, it was a huge impact because I was the main provider for the family, and my income was cut by over 50%. And right before that, I was actually trying to have a family. It was not successful, and we had a very traumatizing experience there with that. And at the same time, I lost multiple people that were part of my life when I was younger, like back to back to back. It was just like stacking. And right around the same time as well, you know, I had previously invested because I had got my degree in real estate, business degree in real estate, and I was studying real estate. I was in the military. That was kind of my plan, like start buying properties and start becoming like this investor and like making myself better. And I invested a significant amount of money. I think it was like around 40 grand that I didn't really have. I put it on credit, and I failed miserably. I fell on my face, and then at the same time, my paycheck, my income that I was relying on was cut by 50%, and I started to default on payments, and it was miserable. And I felt like a complete, absolute failure in life. And that's when next I was still going to the doctors, and the doctors, they started saying, well, you need to take this and you need to take that. And they started giving me medication for pain and all these things. And I listened to them because I trusted them as experts. And what happened was that it caused me to lose myself. I was not myself anymore, and it was causing more problems, in my life than it was solving. It was like putting a Band-Aid on a gushing wound, and it just was, it was a mess, man. I'll be honest with you. So that still wasn't enough for me, I picked myself up again. I kept trying, and I decided, well, okay, this didn't work, but okay, I'm gonna try some other stuff. And I started looking into what I can do right away, and there were sales. And I said, well, people in sales are making money, especially in the financial services industry. So I tried that. And I went and I started working with Aflac, trying to sell insurance to businesses. And I learned very quickly that I was not a very good people person. I was not very good at communicating. I was not very good at selling. And I failed miserably. A lot of it was inactivity, and a lot of it was my own self, and maybe lack of training. So I said, okay, well, it was hard, man. I was like going to several businesses, like 30, 40, 50, 60 a day sometimes, and getting told like, you suck, essentially. Like, no, we don't, like, who are you? I had no confidence. And it was like all these things stacking on top of me, right? So I said, okay. And then I met some other people online that invited me to learn more about insurance, and I switched over to a life insurance company, PHP, and I started trying to build a career over there. And again, I failed miserably. I was literally driving like over an hour a day, to go and try and meet people and try and make it work. And I was putting in activity, but it was just like activity in the wrong zones. And I started to learn sales through Grant Cardone University, and I started like improving, but I was still like learning on a logical level and not an emotional level. So I did not have results, and I seemed like my effort was huge. I was like, man, I'm putting all this effort in, and people say, like, if you just do it, it's gonna work. But that's not always true in life. So I continued to fail. I continued to fail to be a good person. I continued to fail to be a good team member. I continued to fail to be a good friend. And it showed in my results. It showed through, my results were what I was putting out. I was putting out negativity, and I was getting negativity back. And wasn't long after that, I went to a training, actually, I believe it was in Orlando, and I don't know, exactly why, but my medication was, when I came back, was missing. And I panicked, because I don't know if you're on some of these medications, especially the pain medications, the withdrawal symptoms of them are terrifyingly horrible. And I started thinking, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared about this, because I had experienced some of them before when I tried to stop, and I didn't. And then the doctor told me I need to continue my treatment, and I kind of fought back. So I know people had died that I know personally knew and had their lives destroyed by these medications, and it was a very conflicted thing for me that I was being told by this expert I need this, and at the same time I felt like this was like my enemy. It killed people that I loved and destroyed their lives, right? So it was very conflicted for me, and I realized in this moment that this was the universe waking me up, like, boom, 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 hey man, wake up. So I decided in that moment, I said, you know what? This medication was taken from me because it's not meant to be in my body. It's going to be extremely painful. It's going to be extremely difficult and against the expert's advice, right? I didn't tell my doctor. I didn't talk to anybody. I just stopped, dead in my tracks. And it took me a few weeks of, fluids coming out of all into my body and throwing up and not sleeping and extreme more pain than I had before, because you have these phantom pains and it's like, man, complete misery. And I just said, you know what? It's worth it to me because my life is worth it. I am worth it. And I just stuck with it, man. And I kicked it and I got out and I said, okay, I'm in pain. I'm miserable. And things aren't going the way I want them to go. But what can I do about it? What can I control now? I have enough self-discipline that I can stop this thing that's considered one of the most addictive things, right? And very difficult to go through. So what else can I do? And I got momentum from that decision to stop listening to the doctors. And I'm not saying that that's correct for everybody. I'm just saying that's what was correct for me at the time. That's what I felt, and that's what I did. And I continue to do. I live with physical pain daily, and I take nothing other than ibuprofen occasionally when I can't sleep because the pain is so bad. And so there I was, and I had to make a decision, and I knew that I was lacking these skills of sales and marketing, and I was lacking this capital to get investments. And I said, okay, so how can I solve? If I'm aware of what the problem is, how can I solve it? And I heard of some people that were making money in the trucking industry. And around that time, Corona had hit, and everything was shut down. And we had been building a photography business with my wife, and it was kind of stopped. I mean, everything was chaos for everybody, the whole world, And I looked around and said, well, okay, the trucking industry is not being impacted. And here's a chance for me to fill this gap, right, with education. If I'm uneducated, I have the will to push myself and make action. I just need to have the correct knowledge to reinforce myself. And I need some capital to invest in myself. Then how can I get that? And the trucking industry was the answer. So I literally found a trucking industry job at CRST that would actually have a veterans program, and the JAB bill would pay for my training, because it's I think it's like $3,000 or $4,000 to get your CDL. So I went out to the trucking industry in Iowa during Corona, and I trained for a few weeks with this company, and I passed the tests, and I got my license to drive a 18-wheel truck. And then I proceeded to be a team driver for probably like the first six months or so, and then I transferred to another company, and I became an independent driver with this smaller company. And eventually I went into a solo truck on my own and took on a lease. I probably had I was paying the expenses, but I was able to make more money, and it was working. But at the same time, I was dedicated to growth. And I said, okay, if I'm going to be driving for 10, 12 hours, days, and dealing with all this time to make money, I can also use that time to grow. And I did. I listened to audio programs. I listened to everything I could while I was driving. If I stopped, I was reading, I was writing, I was creating, and I was growing constantly and consistently. I would say 2-3 months out at a time, and I work, to the max legal limit. And I would just push myself, man, hard. And I did that for a couple years. And then I realized that I was learning all these things, but if I didn't implement them, right, I was never really going to be good at them. I was never going to get to that level of mastery. And at the same time, as much as I tried to control my health, and as much as I tried to exercise and eat healthy, and it was very extremely difficult on the road. I mean, there's not a lot of options. There's not a lot of places you can take these big trucks, and you're super tired. I mean, you say you're going to exercise, but man, some days you're just like, I cannot anymore. I'm so tired. You're lucky to get a place to sleep at night that's conductive to sleep. So I have a lot of respect for the people that are in that industry, and they are hard workers, and they sacrifice a lot for the people to have what they want in the stores. So you should definitely appreciate that, because it's definitely hard work. But I came home it was around Christmas time, and I was about 60, 70 pounds overweight. I was completely unhealthy. I was completely drained, but I had some money. So I said, you know what? I'm going to deep dive even more, full immersion on my education, and at the same time, I'm going to go full immersion on my health. And I did. I worked out like a professional athlete at my house. I converted my garage into a gym, and I continued to exercise like crazy, man. Eat healthy and do cleanses and just study my health. I read Tony Robbins' new book on a life force, and I started following people like Wim Hof on breathing and cold therapies and heat therapies. I got a little sauna in my house, started taking cold showers every day, and I started fixing my energy. And I continued to study more and more and more on my personal development. And, I got to a point after about 4 months, I had lost right around 65, 70 pounds. I had really transformed my energy, my health, and my mind, and I was feeling strong. I said, okay, it's time to start taking action. And here I am. And I don't want you guys to think like this is everything that happened to me in my life, but it's an overview, like a highlight, and I want you to know that it's not about me, and it's not about my journey, and it's not about what I've done or not done, but there's opportunities to learn from others, and there's things that that I don't know, and there's things that I know that maybe you don't know, or there's things that I know that maybe you know but you just need to be reminded of, and there's things that that maybe I need to be reminded of, right? And we're all on this journey, we're all on this together, and I really want my service to be about others. I really want my life to be dedicated to helping others, not to suffer. I really want my life to be dedicated to service. And I want to serve through love. And I am forever grateful for everyone that has ever helped me. And these random acts of kindness that happened to me from whatever point in my life when I really needed them most, I owe it to the universe to give back. And all these people who have helped me, I owe it to them to give back. And I owe it to, everyone who is also in a challenging time to be inspirational, or be strength, or be anger, or be whatever it is they need, so they can see that there's possibilities. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what you were born into. It's a matter of a choice of what you're going to do with your life. And at some point, you have to take responsibility for yourself and for your results. And you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do about it? If I'm aware of everything, and right now there's always options to learn. What am I really doing about it? So I hope that you all lived a very blessed life. I hope that you all have more love and happiness, and that you are able to not suffer near as much as I have. And I hope that if you do, that you understand that your story is powerful, and that you have the abilities, and that even if you don't believe in yourself, there's still people that will believe in you, even if you feel you don't deserve it, and that you are 100% worthy of love, and that I want to share my kindness with the world, and I want to share my kindness through love and commitment to service before self. So I know it's a little chaotic and spread out there, but I hope that gives you some insight. Stay blessed.